So the first I heard about the situation where we had an untrusty roommate was when our landlord's agent came up and knocked on the door and said, "Here's a 3-day pay or quit. You guys probably knew this was coming for a while, and have a nice day."
We had this guy in the house named Ted.
By the name of, we're gonna call him Ted because that was the name he went by.
I met a gentleman named Ted Humble.
Who was this guy?
He was kind of sketch.
He seemed extremely trustworthy.
A gentleman named Ted who approached us with a great business opportunity for a couple of young aspiring students. And this project that he sold to us was the idea that we would come together in a house and create a profitable business. Now, this did not happen.
So we had warning signs that this was getting sketchy from pretty early on. But we were willing to ignore them for a long time because they weren't like completely breaking stuff. The household, it was sort of working.
This gentleman came into a lease agreement with a real estate agent and acquired a house for our project. In doing so, he acquired some startup money from all of our potential group members. We, as a group, were struggling to, one, come up with our idea, and two, ensure that our bills and our finances were squared away.
I thought all our bills were paid, everything was paid up, and because the setup was that we were handing all our money to this gentleman, and he would hand it to the landlord. It comes to find out that he did not do this, that he isolated the landlord from us from the landlord, and us from each other, so that way there was no clear communication.
Also, he would tell us lies about each other. He'd take individuals aside, like into private places, and have one-on-ones with them, where the others couldn't hear him, where he would say a bunch of stuff that was blatantly made up to make other members of the household look like really terrible people. And of course, all of it was made up, but he was doing a really good job of keeping us from talking to each other, and that was something.
We entrusted this individual with the paying of the bills and all of the financials that go with that, while subsidizing our own living expenses. Now, this occurred for September through November.
Ted liked to say that he wasn't posting bills because of confidentiality and legal issues. He liked to throw around the word litigation a lot, and he liked to say things were confidential. He never actually explained what those reasons were, and we later found out it was because there were no such reasons, but it was enough to keep the questions down for a while.
In mid-November, after allocating this individual about $5,000 for rent and utilities, he disappeared and has since been untraceable.
And so it comes to find out that he basically pocketed all the money, for the most part, and took off with it. Like he basically packed up everything that he could carry with him and ran. I mean, he left a bunch of his crap, his trash, and his food here, but like his laptop and anything else he can carry is gone. And we did some research and found out that his real name was not Ted, it was something else.
Except that wasn't his real name, and we didn't find that out until later.
Later, as we found out, Robert Ross.
We took steps to try and chase him down. We traced his IP address, but he was using a masker, so we couldn't actually find him.
And when we went to try and switch the bills over, at least one of the bills, it turns out that he had used his real name there with the internet because he'd sent them an email saying, "Oh, I'm no longer living there. It's okay if you put the bill in their name, the people who are still living there," and try to pass the bills off to us. And it was just like, the person we knew was not his real person. Like it was not the real Ted. You know, we met him and we thought we knew the real him. Like he presented himself as a trustworthy individual to everyone. He fooled the landlord and he fooled us and multiple other people, as far as we know. And we haven't heard from him since.
And long story short, we almost got evicted. But we talked to our landlord and agent, and they decided that they weren't going to evict us after all, after they found out what had been going on.
We have since come together as a house and have moved forward, which I would like to think is a positive experience for everybody here. And I can only hope that other people are much more cautious than we were initially and can learn something from our experience. Thank you.
You know, he has not communicated at all with us. We're left to clean up the rest of the trash, set up the bills in our name, which is, you know, and to deal with the fallout, whatever else comes up, because, you know, who knows what other things are going on, you know what I mean? We really don't know, and we're still trying to work this out. We think we have everything taken care of, but, you know, you just never know at this point. Like I said, this guy seemed extremely trustworthy, and it turns out that he wasn't, and it really affected everyone in the house very negatively. And that's the brief 5-minute version of it, I guess you could say. So that's all I got to say on that.
So my story is that me and some friends were trying to find housing just like any other students over the summer. And we did find this really awesome house with like $3,000 for rent, and it had 3 rooms and just enough for 6 people. Towards the beginning of September, I was still at home and I get a call and I get told that this house was infested with mold and that the carpet had fleas. And the girl said that it was pretty much uninhabitable and incapable of being lived in. We tried to get the landlord to fix this problem because he claimed that he was going to like, oh, it's going to be clean before you get here. But that was a lie. And then he made no attempt to try and actually fix this problem himself. He just wanted our money. And so we spent 2 weeks before class started looking for a place to live. Now keep in mind that's like the last minute thing you ever want to do because there's nothing. And we found this place that actually was offering student housing, or was housing for students specifically, but it was ridiculously expensive. And ironically, it was also across the street from the house that we bailed. And what ended up happening was I wasn't making my rent after like 2 months because it was too expensive. And I did have to move out even before the quarter ended. So moral of the story is, definitely make sure that if your landlord says, oh, I'm going to clean something or I'm going to clean a property, get that in writing. And if the security deposit is like twice as much as a month's rent, then that's sketch. Because our security deposit was $6,000 on a house that was only being rented for $3,000 a month. So definitely avoid that. Make sure you know what you can afford before going into just blowing all your money on the first month and then realizing that you can't even afford food for the next few months.
What about your living situation in the house that you moved into with like the amount of people?
Oh god. So this place was like 3 floors and it was super tiny. There were 8 rooms. According to the lease, 9 people were allowed on the property. 9 people were sharing 1 fridge. It doesn't work. They thought that they could make more money and more profit by providing these really nice refurbished rooms, and there's heating and there's air conditioning, all this good stuff, but the rent's too high for the room that you get, and you're sharing way too much, or actually too little space with way too many people. So it just wasn't worth it. You definitely want to figure out like how many people you're going to share the actual common space. Like we didn't really have a living room. It was pretty much like 5 square feet and a couch, and then there was a door. So and then never ever take a room that's over $1,000 and it's like super tiny and doesn't have a closet. it's not worth it.
Is that good?
Yeah, can I ask you one question though?
Yeah. Do I
If
swear?
someone else, no, someone else is in this situation, where would you send them to for like campus resources?
I would go to the Santa Cruz County Housing Office. I would communicate with your landlord or real estate agent. And lastly, I would communicate with the school via the Slug Support office. Could offer you some potential assistance.